When should you shut down your print-on-demand business? I know this is a question that isn't talked about a lot, but I think a lot of people might have this question, like, how do you know when you should shut down? In this episode, we're going to talk through some tips, some mindsets, and some concrete strategies and things to look out for when you're considering shutting down your print-on-demand store. My name is Kerry Egler, here with my co-host Adrian Von Arx, and welcome to the Print on Demand Playbook podcast. Welcome back to the Print on Demand Playbook podcast. I'm here with Mr. Adrian Von Arx. What's going on, my man?
Dude, I am good, man. I'm really good. I'm getting ready to go to Costa Rica with my wife for a couple of weeks, and I'm fired up. So I'm happy to be here. Happy to continue the episodes, keep them coming every single week. How are you?
I'm so jealous. You're going to Costa Rica, man. I could really use some just sunny weather right now. Although it is warming up a little bit, but it's not going to last very long. It's January and February are like the only like really bad months of just coldness in Oklahoma. So we're in the thick of it right now.
Dang.
It was like 10 degrees last week, 15 degrees, which is like the worst it gets for us. So
I want to say I can relate because it's cold here in Phoenix, but it's probably
like
nothing
60.
Compared to what you guys have. So I'm just going to...
It's probably like 55, 60.
Some days it gets colder at night.
Yeah, whatever, man. No, I hate January and February in Oklahoma. In like June and July, it's like 110 degrees, which is bad. But like I would take that all day over like just cold. The wind will just cut your skin. Like it is just brutal. Ugh. All of our northern listeners are like, shut up. You don't even know what cold is. All right. Let's get into it. So today we're talking about when to shut down your print-on-demand business. I think this isn't like a typical topic that we would really talk about a lot. It's something we don't maybe touch on as much, but I think it's a real issue that people face, and I want to hopefully give you a little bit different spin on it this week. The big thing is I don't want people to feel like shutting down any kind of business, but shutting down your print-on-demand business or your Shopify store, like you're not a failure. Like this doesn't make you a failure, right? And so that's kind of where I want to bring this to today. But I also want to talk about some concrete signs that you should definitely shut down your print-on-demand business. Like, hey, it's time to move on. And I also just want to talk through like some tips, some mindsets, some different quotes and different things that might help you on this journey. I really think this is just coming from a place of, over the last 5 years, working with so many people, starting print-on-demand businesses, trying to grow their t-shirt apparel businesses, and a lot of people running into those walls and trying to figure out like, why isn't this working? And what do I do? And sometimes the answer is like, just move on, just shut it down and move on. And so I want to talk about that today. And so this episode is for anybody that has felt that before, or you might be feeling that right now. Like maybe what you're doing isn't working. You're like, why isn't it working? What do I do? Where do I go from here? And that's kind of where I want to come from in this episode, but I want to keep it as lighthearted and as helpful and positive as we can. So that's kind of what we're talking about today. Adrian, are you ready to jump in?
Yeah, man. I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Lately I feel like I've been trying to bring the weird episode ideas. So, I don't think it's weird for a lot of people out there, this topic, but it might be a little painful to talk about.
I think, I wouldn't call it weird. I'd call it more fringe, edgy, but you know what? I think that a lot of people are experiencing this or have experienced this before. I know I've experienced it. Like my first print-on-demand business was an epic failure. I did so many things wrong and I wasted so much money on terrible strategies that didn't get me results. I pivoted and I was able to build a business that generated 6 figures in 8 months. Not like I'm anything special, but I did a couple things that kind of put me on the right road. And one of those things that I think was a big reason for that was pivoting. Being like, I don't know anything about this niche. I don't even know why I thought this was a good niche. It should have been a huge red flag that no one else seemed to be selling in it, but I thought it was a huge opportunity. And I've heard a lot of other people say this too. They're like, oh, I want to enter this new niche that, I don't see anyone else doing this. And while some may consider that a blue ocean, sort of like, like, oh, it's untapped potential, I would actually consider that a huge red flag because competition signals demand. And I
Yeah.
love knowing that there's other brands crushing it in a niche that I'm going to get into.
Yeah, that's good. I'm really excited to get your perspective as we go through these notes and just any thoughts that you have that kind of go along with kind of what we're talking about here. But I also like what you said, and just to offer my perspective, just on that note, I always tell a lot of my students, and I've mentioned this throughout YouTube videos and throughout classes I've done and everything. Like personally, I've had way more failures than I had successes. If you look at my business track record over the last, I mean, I guess I'm coming up on like 9 or 10 years here pretty soon of like doing business stuff. Probably around 8. I guess closer to 9 now. I'm getting close to 9, but over 9 years of doing like online business stuff and everything, like I've had so many ideas and so many things that I've started and have not followed through with, or a lot of things that I've tried to make successful or make work and just haven't worked. And one of the things that's probably made me successful is the my ability to let go and move on quickly and be able to find those things that work for me. But if you just look at my track record, like I've had 10x or more the failures to that I have had to my successes, which are only a few. And I think a good message here too, which isn't in my notes, is you only need one to really make a huge difference in your life. You only need one print on demand store that hits that 6-figure mark, 7-figure mark, whatever your goal is. Obviously, we all have different goals and different lifestyles, but you only need one business to hit the mark and make $5,000, $10,000 a month to make a huge shift and change in your life. And that change happened for me years ago when I had that first success. It completely like changed how we lived and how my family lived and the house that we lived in and all those kind of different things. So, hey, it's Kerry here with a quick message for you. If you're somebody who's thinking about starting up a online print on demand t-shirt or apparel business, or maybe you have an apparel business and you just want some help growing it, I want to invite you to go watch my free class over at shirtschool.com. Inside that class, it's about 60 to 90 minutes. I'll cover my proven system for starting and growing a profitable online apparel and print on demand business. I'll show you some examples of students that I have that have had a lot of success being a part of Shirt School. And this is a great episode to learn a little bit about Shirt School, because in this episode, we're talking about some of the concepts and some of the frameworks I teach inside the program. So if you want to learn more about my program, Shirt School, just go over to shirtschool.com, watch that free class. We'll see you there. Yeah. Anything else you want to add to that before we kind of dive into the notes here?
I totally agree. One grand slam, man. That's really all it takes. One grand slam business, and like if I do think one thing, like yes, absolutely. There's times when you should pivot, but
Yeah.
there's also times where you should stay the course. And I think as entrepreneurs, so many entrepreneurs, we're A type, man. We're always distracted by the bright shiny objects. We're always looking at the new opportunities. We're always kind of like seeing what's buzzing around and be like, oh, should I go in that direction? Should I go in that direction? So many times, really what we need to do is we need to put our blinders on. We need to commit to action and consistency and just really focus on the process and detach from the result. I definitely attribute that as a big part of my success, is just staying power, man. Just like consistency, like I'm in it to win it. And if you see the validation, if you've taken the time to do the research and this is a profitable niche and this is a niche that you can serve, then in a lot of cases, I actually think so many people could be successful, but they just quit
Mhm.
before, sometimes like 5 feet from gold. Sometimes they are just so close to success. They put so much into it and they're really making moves, but they're just not seeing the immediate results. And I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs, and I've totally been guilty of this in the past, they fall short. Is they're just looking for instant gratification, but that's not really how entrepreneurship works. This is a long-term game. Like if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, commit to the long term. If you don't, maybe you should reconsider being an entrepreneur. I'm just being real here because that's kind of what I've experienced, and that's what I've learned from a lot of other successful entrepreneurs like you, Kerry. You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah, I think you're definitely gonna resonate with kind of the last part of this episode. I'm excited to get your thoughts when we get there because we've got some of that stuff in there. But let's jump into it. So I've got a few notes here, and I've got a few points. I've got 1, 2, I've got like two kind of mindsets, tips here of how to think about this, and then I've got kind of like some concrete of like, what should you be looking for when you are considering shutting down, or you should I keep going, should I not, kind of how to think about that. So number one, let's start with number one. So this is what I want to tell our listeners out there. If you're in this spot, or you felt this in the past, you might be feeling this, right now. Closing your e-commerce business does not make you a failure in life. Let me just say that again. Closing your e-commerce business does not make you a failure in life. I think this is a common feeling that we feel like if this fails, I'm a failure. Like,
No.
have you ever felt like that?
Totally. Yes, absolutely. We feel so many of the things that our listeners feel. Absolutely felt that, but 100% agree. Like, you fail forward. And the thing is, so many successful people, you hear it time and time again. They have one or multiple experiences with failure before they really take off. And in my experience and what I see from a lot of other people, you're always learning. Like, you are still learning, and you can take those learnings to whatever it is next. Maybe it's just a different niche, right? Whatever that opportunity is next, you can take those, you can fail forward. And I feel like in a lot of times that's it. You take those skills forward, and a lot of people take off.
Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. Um, yeah, I felt this before. I felt like, if something fails, like it makes me a failure as a person. And I'm thankful that my wife is kind of that steady voice in my life that reminds me that I'm a good dad, that I'm a good husband, and it reminds me of everything that I have to offer the world. And so I want you to remember, as a listener, first of all, if you do have to close any kind of business, whether it's a success or a failure, that does not make you a failure in life. And, I want you to really think about what you have to offer the world. You have a ton to offer the world. And I want to just bring up a couple Michael Jordan quotes. I think everybody knows who Michael Jordan is, the GOAT of
The
basketball.
GOAT.
But I was actually looking for the second quote, and it came up with another quote that I put in here from Michael Jordan. So I got two quotes from Michael Jordan. I love the second one specifically, but the first one, he said, "The key to success is failure." That's kind of weird. The key to success is failure. And that's kind of what you were mentioning right there, right? Is like you almost have to fail to get the success.
Dude, how many
Um,
people do you know who hit a grand slam on their first try? Like, how many
Absolutely.
people do you know? I don't know many. You talk to so many successful entrepreneurs, and they all have the stories of the struggle. The struggle, it's real, it's part of the journey. I was reading a really good book from Brendan Burchard recently, and he was talking about this, and he just says, like, honor the journey.
Mhm.
And it, like, you're going to reflect back on it, and you're going to realize that it made you so much stronger and so much better, but it's going to be brutal at the time that you're experiencing it.
We could probably start a new podcast or do like a hundred more episodes on, successful people and just talking about their failures, like literally just
Right.
doing episodes of their failures.
Right.
Like,
Right.
but anyways, the other quote from Michael Jordan, this is the one I love. I've quoted this so many times. I absolutely love this quote because it's just like, we think about the GOAT of basketball and we just think about, man, he's got six titles. He went 6 for 6 in the finals, never lost an NBA finals. This is what he said though. "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game winning shot and I've missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed." I
Boom.
I love that quote. I love that quote. It's
So
it's
good.
just crazy to think about, like somebody like that we revere, like in such high regard, that had so many missed shots and had so many, like, we don't think about the missed shots, the lost games, the game winning shots that rimmed out, those kind of things. Like, it's pretty wild.
Right.
And I think the lesson there, you may not win the first time. The first time you launch a business, it's probably not going to be your best business. I think I could speak for both of us in saying that our first try at business was probably not our best try so far, right? We're gonna
Oh,
have
yeah.
we're gonna have even better ones, but our first one was probably not the best one. In fact, the second one was not the best one. And sometimes it's gonna take you, a lot of tries, until you find the one that really hits for you. But I think the difference is between those that succeed and those that fail is that winners don't quit. That's really it. Like when you
Right.
have a failure, you're not going to quit. You're going to try again. You're going to do something new. You're going to do something different. You're going to open another store. You're going to go to another niche, whatever, but you're going to keep
Yep.
trying. And that's the mindset I want our listeners to take is if you do have to close a print on demand store, your business, number one, understand that it doesn't make you a failure in life. And number two, don't quit. Continue to try again and continue to keep going.
Yeah. No, I can I share 2 quotes about
Yeah,
this?
you're the
Because
quote master, so hit us
yeah.
with the quotes.
Man, these quotes make me feel something, and I know that we've got entrepreneurs listening to this. So many like, you guys are our people, like, you get it, right? So if these quotes resonate with us, I feel like they resonate with other entrepreneurs. So I wanna share one quote that I really love here. It's in my quote note, on my phone, and I was trying to find it. It says, "It is impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not lived at all. You might
Ooh,
as well not have lived at all, in which case you fail by default." I 100% believe this. Like, everyone listening to this podcast, everyone who has the entrepreneurial spirit, you were meant for more. You know you were meant for more. You know that feeling well. We know that feeling well. We can relate. But so many people will never actually take any action at all. You just taking any action, you have a massive competitive advantage over so many people. You're like in this percentile, the small percentile of people that actually take the action. So I want to commend anyone that's taken any action at all. And remember, you are learning. Like, you've probably learned so much. And I feel like as entrepreneurs, we're so quick to just kind of move on because we're always learning new things. We never like stop very often to look back and be like, oh my God, look how far I've come.
yeah,
Look at
absolutely.
this incredible website. Look at these amazing products. Look at this community I'm building. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it made me think of that other quote, which might be your other quote, but it made me think of that other quote that says, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take."
Oh, that's a good
Right?
one. I
Yeah,
love that one. But the other one I was going to share was a Steve Jobs quote. So
hit it.
this is a Steve Jobs quote. He says, "I'm convinced that about half of what separates the successful entrepreneurs from the non-successful ones is pure perseverance."
Mm.
Boom.
And you mentioned something else there. I want to cap off this section about just that your business closing your business doesn't make you a failure. I want to cap it off with this, and I want to try to be brief with this because I don't really want to get too far in the weeds. Um, but I'm going to talk about the gap and the gain real quick, and I do want to reference another episode. If you want to hear more about this concept, me talk about it, I actually went deeper into this in episode 106, results over resolutions, how to crush 2025 before it even starts. That's just a couple episodes ago. If you want to go listen to more of this, but I read a book recently called 10x is better than 2x. It's by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And they have another book called The Gap and the Gain. They actually wrote both of these books. So The Gap and the Gain and 10x is better than 2x. I have not read The Gap and the Gain, but they talk about The Gap and the Gain in 10x is better than 2x. So I need to go read the other one. But they talk about this concept of living in the gain and not living in the gap. And just to keep it super basic, living in the gain is basically where you are only comparing yourself to yourself. You're not comparing yourself to other people. When you compare yourself to other people, it's a losing battle. You're never going to live up, right? But if you compare yourself to yourself and where you are at now in comparison to where you've been, even a week ago, even a month ago, in the book, it talks about these very small measurements where we even look at what have we accomplished in the last 24 hours. When you actually compare yourself to yourself and you really look at what new skills you've learned or what progress you've made or what wins you've had, no matter how small they are, when you look back, that's how you can live in the gain because you're going to appreciate how far you've come so much more. Now, if we look at ourselves in comparison to, the successful guy that lives down the street or the successful gal that you know at the coffee shop or your church or wherever, that we're going to be fighting a losing battle. We're going to be living in the gap because we're always going to be looking at what we're missing in comparison to them, right? But if we just judge ourselves based off of how far we've come, that's how we can live in the gain and we can recognize our wins. And so I would just encourage you only compare yourself to where you were 6 months ago, a year ago, or even 30 days ago. and take some time frequently to assess those small wins and how far you've come, even in small amounts of time. And look at your potentially closing down your print on demand store. Look at what you have learned from that, because I also have found that all those little failures that I've had in entrepreneurship that I've shut down that haven't worked, when I look back, I go, oh man, I learned this that I'm using now from that. And I'm so glad I did that, even though it didn't make me any money or it didn't make me a celebrity or any of those things. But like, I've learned this skill that I use now, right? And so I look at it that way, which is really great. All right,
Yeah.
let's keep it rolling here.
Let's keep it rolling.
Let's keep it rolling. All right, so I'm trying to move through these a little bit quicker here, just for time's sake. So number one was closing your e-commerce business does not make you a failure in life. Number two, this is a piece of advice for anybody out there who is starting a new business, or maybe you're currently kind of in those beginning phases. This is my advice. Don't get attached to your idea. Don't get like
Yes.
emotionally attached to your idea. Here's the reality is we put tons of hours, sweat and hard work and a lot of sacrifice into these little internet stores. And we feel like we need to hold on forever to like we have to make this a success because we've put so much into it, right? And so we get so attached to it. But the reality is these small stores that we spend all these time on, we do the marketing and all these different things. Like they're just ideas until we've made sales, proved the concept. We started like actually building a real business, right? They're just ideas. They're just concepts. They're not concrete, successful businesses that we should even be attached to, and I don't even honestly, I think in general, even this is my advice is as you get deeper into even a successful business, I think you should try to stay not emotionally attached to it, even though that's very difficult. I'm just speaking for personal experience. I very much get emotionally attached to successful businesses for sure that I've had, but just understand that when you're at those beginning stages, like it is just an idea and you should look at it that way. It's really nothing more than that until you've proven that concept. You've got sales in the door, you've got customers, you're really building something. So my advice here, don't get attached to your idea. And actually what you need to do is you need to fail fast and you need to move on to the next idea quickly. When you're seeing that something is not working, that doesn't always mean you should give up, but you should be quick to fail. You should be quick to be like, to put it behind you, not be emotionally attached to it, because when we're emotionally attached, that drags things out. Then we start to have expenses that we don't need to have. Then we start to procrastinate and not take action because we're scared of X, Y, and Z. And so we need to actually be quicker to fail and move on quickly. And that comes with not being attached to your idea. I want to get your thoughts on this, Adrian, but I do quickly want to mention the MVP concept that this is something I teach inside Shirt School. I actually just spent the last 4 months re-recording, re-uploading, rewriting, and adding to the Shirt School content. There's about 85 lessons inside Shirt School in the main portion of Shirt School, not including the bonuses. But one of the things I talk about is my MVP store concept. There's a whole module in there where I teach you how to build out your store in Shopify, but I talk about this MVP concept. And the concept of it is minimum viable product. It's that I don't want you to spend a month building your store only to find out that the niche wasn't any good, or you couldn't make sales of your products, or you have the wrong marketing, whatever. I don't want you to spend a ton of time on that until you've actually proven the concept. Now, once you've proven the stores, can make money, can make sales, then yeah, we're going to put a little bit more time and effort into it. But this is kind of the MVP concept. Let's actually do the minimum. That's why it's called minimum viable product. Let's do the minimum to bring a store to market, and let's actually get some sales, so that's going to give us confidence. That's going to prove that concept. We're going to be able to see it and be like, oh man, this can really, really work because I got 10 sales in the door. And then let's start building upon that, right? Because if we can't get that initial proof, if we can't get those sales, we can't get those customers, we don't see traction with it and that can be in the form of a lot of different things, engagement, email list growth, those kind of things. If we don't see that, my advice would be be quick to fail, shut it down, and let's move on. Um, What are your thoughts on all this? Just not getting attached to those ideas, kind of building that MVP, those kind of things.
Yeah. So, first of all, you definitely take the emotion out of it, and it's
Yeah.
so much easier said than done. So much easier. I feel like entrepreneurship just attracts emotional people. I don't know what it is, but I'm emotional. You're emotional. A lot of our students are emotional. You know what I mean? And that's cool. Well, I mean, harness the emotion, but don't like take it out. Try to take it out of the business. When it comes to shutting it down, I'm curious to know what your definition of shutting it down is. Like, if I had a student who I knew was in a successful niche that they were super passionate about, that they were proficient in, that was profitable, and they just been giving it a little bit of time, I would I wouldn't tell them probably to shut down the business unless they were like, I hate this. I'm so unhappy. I'm not having fun at all. I'd be like, okay, something's got to change, right? But in most cases, like this is how everyone starts. You know what I mean? Like very rarely do people just hit it off out of the gate. Like it almost never happens. But so often those are the only stories we hear, right? But the truth is, most people, it's like a long upward trend over time, right? And there's always going to be peaks and valleys along the way too. So if that's you, welcome to the club. That's how all of us have done it. Most of us have done it, I should say. It's very rare. So I wouldn't say, I wouldn't say like pivot, quit your business, shut it down. But I would like to audit the business and see where they're spending their time, what kind of systems they have in place, how consistent they're being, where they're doing their research, and look at kind of like a lot of different areas. In terms of MVP, 100%. Like I say, make an MVP for your entire business. Like choose your niche really quickly, ideally in a day or less. Start creating designs,
Yeah.
do the design research, get your website up ASAP, and then you can focus all of your energy on the sales generating activity. And that's where you want to get. You want to get there as quickly as possible, right? Design research, design creation, marketing. This is where you want to get the proof of concept. But know too that like probably your first, your fifth, your 10th, your 15th, your 20th, or 25th design, they're probably not going to be your winners
Mhm.
because most people, they're new to this. They don't really know what their audience wants. That's what you learn over time. And most new businesses, when I see their designs, they're terrible. And I'm just being real, but like mine were too. Mine were absolutely atrocious, man. It's cringe looking at my designs. But what you do is, success leaves clues. Like learn along the way. Find what is working for other brands. Find what's working for you, what kind of designs are working best. And what you're going to notice is that your brand is naturally going to evolve over time. And it might look totally different in a year from now than it does right now. Right. And so this is something I see is like brands they find their style. They find their style. And you can like how I've evolved, how my brands have evolved, it's always been based on what's selling. Like if something's selling, I'm going to try to replicate that magic. And I'm going to look at things like the elements that are being used, the fonts that are being used, the products that are being sold, the placements, all these different things. And I'm going to try to create more like that, more of the good and less of the bad. There's a quote from Alex Hormozy, which I really like, which it's kind of like a humbling quote. I found it inspirational. Maybe other people won't find it so inspirational, but I'm going to share it anyways. He's like, if your business isn't successful, you don't suck. Your strategy sucks. And that's a good thing because you can actually change your strategy, right? I found that very inspirational. I was like, yeah, that's right. It's not me. Like, don't even take it emotionally on yourself. Like you're probably doing your best. You're probably doing your best with the knowledge that you have. And you're going to learn as you just keep putting in the reps.
And that's good stuff. That's good stuff. And I do want to talk about more about, kind of some of the more specifics, and that's going to come in this last section we've got here. We're talk about so number 3. Let's just move on. So number 1 was closing your e-commerce business does not make you a failure in life. Number 2, don't get attached to your idea. Number 3, like realistically, when should you close your store? When should you close your store? The first thing I want to say is, and I want to give you some concrete stuff to think about. The first thing I want to say is, I want to talk about this. I know you're super passionate about this, Adrian. Have you implemented a proven strategy for winning designs and marketing? Have
Yes.
you implemented a proven strategy for winning designs and marketing? I don't want to get too far off in the weeds right here because I know we can really go in on this. But one of the things that Adrian and I are both really passionate about, and this is not because we offer courses and coaching and different things like this. This is because we've invested into it in for ourselves. Like we've both spent a ton of money investing into our own knowledge and investing into um, courses, coaching, books, masterminds, events, live events, different things like that. We invest into those things so that we can learn the proven strategies, learn the proven mindsets, learn how successful people do it, and just copy what they do. And so I think the first question that I would ask myself if I was in this situation of like, man, it's not working. Should I shut down? Like, what should I be looking for? Have you been trying to do it just based off of piecing together YouTube videos, piecing together, you know, advice from ChatGPT or whatever the case may be? Or have you found somebody that you trust that has been where you want to go? And have you followed their strategies by sometimes having to invest into a books, courses, coaching, masterminds, different things? Have you followed their strategies to a T? Because that will lessen the curve, you know, to get to where you want to go, or lessen the time frame to get to where you want to go, because you're gonna avoid a lot of the struggles and pitfalls that you would have if you were just doing it alone, right? So learning, investing into yourself, getting the knowledge you need, and implementing that will get you there, get you to that success you want quicker. What do you have to say?
Oh, man, I have to really restrain myself here.
New
I
episode.
have to really restrain myself. This is easily an episode. This is like a whole freaking podcast. But like, yeah, like it. Here's what I will say. In my experience, from all the people I've seen, and myself included, if you're not seeing results, it almost always comes down to your strategy. Almost always. And I think we have this kind of bias about our brands where we're looking at our brand and be like, everything's so good. My website's so good. My designs are so good. My marketing's so good. Why am I not making sales? Well, clearly the market doesn't agree with that, or else you would be making sales. Like if you actually had a product that had mass appeal with your target audience and you were getting eyeballs on that product, which it's not nearly as hard as most people think to get the eyeballs. It's much harder to actually create a product that people want, like the product that has mass appeal. But like we all think our you know we I'm happy that that we all think our brands are great, but if you are creating designs and you're getting them in front of people and you're not making sales, something is broken. And it almost always comes down to strategy. I think so many people, you're right, they piece together all these strategies and they just hope that this is going to work. But the sad reality is that hope is not a strategy. That is not a proven repeatable strategy, right? And I just want to tell one really, really quick story because this is the power of a strategy. So I have been investing in myself almost since day one as an entrepreneur. The only time I hadn't invested in myself was when I had that failure of a print-on-demand business. My first print-on-demand business that never made a single sale. And I actually got into print-on-demand with two friends who actually introduced me to it. And all of us started brands, 3 different brands in 3 different niches. And all of us were struggling because we didn't have a strategy. We were just trying to piece together whatever we can find and thinking like, oh, this is going to be so easy. It looks like everyone's having success, not really knowing what we were doing. Well, it was crickets. No shock now in retrospect, looking back. And we all invested in training and coaching, and every single one of us, 3 different brands and 3 different niches, all hit 6 figures in revenue within the first year, and all hit 7 figures, I want to say within the first 2 to 3 years, something like that. It's because we had this crystal clear, proven, repeatable strategy. And it's nice when you have a bigger sample size of people that are following this, because then it gives it a little more street cred. You know that it wasn't me. I didn't have any magic. I didn't have any special ability. There was, it wasn't me. It was like them too. And so I don't like to take the credit for being successful. I credit it to the strategy, something that's proven and repeatable. And I worked full time in print on demand for years before I even got into coaching. But the whole time, I was always investing in coaching, and I still do because I don't know everything and things are changing all the time. And I consider myself a student of the game forever, lifelong learner, grow or die. So I just am really big on this, and I was really big on it long before I was a coach. It's always hard to talk about this as a coach because I feel like sometimes people are like, oh, you're only saying that because you're a coach. It's like, no, no. Long before I was a coach, I was investing in myself. And I think that a lot of the people that had success, if you talk to them, most of them will say that it was investing in themselves that changed the game. That was absolutely my experience. And I don't give myself all the credit. I give the strategy the credit.
Yeah, man, that's really good stuff. Um, let's keep it moving here. So the question was, when should you close your store? So I'm going to talk about some specifics here. So again, I want to go back to Inside Shirt School because this is something that I kind of talk about Inside Shirt School. So Inside Shirt School, I have a 30 to 60 day framework for marketing strategies. So inside the program, we teach 3 free organic strategies that are all proven to work. I say that they're proven to work because either I should say myself and students over the past 5 years that I've had Shirt School have proven these strategies to work. So it's not based on chance, it's based on like real case studies of students that have actually implemented these strategies, and they have actually worked. So we teach 3 free organic strategies that are proven to work, but here's the key. The key is consistency. we the
The
key is
secret
consistency.
sauce.
The secret sauce, literally. You want the secrets, revealing the secrets. It's consistency. The only reason that these strategies inside Shirt School, these 3 strategies that I teach personally, the only reason they wouldn't work is because of consistency for the most part. It's literally just consistency. I encourage my students to execute one of these strategies for 30 to 60 days. So take one of the 3 strategies, whichever fits your personality best, execute that strategy for 30 to 60 days. Do not assess results after 1 day. Do not assess results after 1 week. Do not assess results after 2 weeks. Start to assess results once you've executed it for at least 30 days. And I think 30 days is pretty conservative. I would really want to say 45 to 60 days, but at least 30 days. So if it doesn't work after 30 to 60 days, I encourage students to try a different marketing strategy in combination with releasing new designs. But I want to use kind of an analogy here. I think because it's easy for people to understand. So I'm going to use a fitness analogy, but I'm going to use myself as the example here. I want to tell a quick story. Try to keep this brief, but essentially, this is just talking about my fitness journey here. Around 2018, I was about 28 years old. I'm 35 now. I'll be 36 in 6 months. So around 2018, I was like 28 years old. I ballooned up to about 200 pounds. So I'm 5'10". I've always been kind of a skinny frame, but I got 200 was pretty big for me. It looked very unhealthy. I have some gross pictures, but anyways, I wanted to lose some weight. My wife wanted me to lose some weight. I needed to get healthy. So what I did when I was 28 was I started tracking my calories on an app on my phone, just daily tracking my calories and cutting the amount of calories that I was eating. I did not change my diet. I didn't work out at all, which is crazy. But I lost almost 40 pounds by tracking those calories. And to be honest with you, it was like too easy. Like it was way too easy. I was like, this is crazy. Like every day I wake up and be like, dude, I'm down another pound. Let's go. Like it was like, I think about 4 months in, like 4 to 6 months in, I'd lost that like 35 to 40 pounds. I get down to 163 pounds. And fast forward to today. So fast forward, that was 2018. Fast forward to today, I'm actually in much better shape because I've been playing pickleball for about 2 years, like heavy pickleball. My body composition is much different. So I have a little bit more muscle. But I at the beginning of this or at the end of last year, I wanted to lose some fat. Like I kind of wanted to go back on this journey. Like I just want to tone up. I want to get in better shape. Really just look better. Like I feel good. I feel healthy. I'm very active, but I want to lose some fat. I want to look better and feel better. I want to recover quicker because I do like sometimes I play very hard. But anyways, I wasn't eating great. I wanted to tone up, and so I've been doing this for about a month and a half, 2 months. And here's what I've been doing. I've upped my protein. I've been taking supplements. I've been lifting weights consistently like 3 times a week, play pickleball for cardio 5 times a week. It feels impossible to make progress. Like, I'm 35 years old, and I don't know. I know there's people listening to this that are going to be like, wait till you're 50. But I'm just saying, I'm 35 years old, and I'm comparing this to how easy it was when I was 28, and I cannot see progress. Like, it is just like so frustrating. So I've been at this about 2 months. I've lost about 3 to 4 pounds on the scale, but I am like, I would say around like 30 to 45 days is when I started to see some like changes in my body. Like, I'm like, okay, I see like some things are happening. I'm starting to see some things. I'm doing my measurements. I'm like, I can't just pay attention to the scale. I'm doing the measurements. I'm seeing a little bit of movement there. But overall, like, I feel like it's so slow. And I'm like struggling to stay the course because I'm like, when I was 28, I did nothing except eat less cheeseburgers and less fries. Like, I was still eating bad stuff. I just ate less, and the pounds were just like just shedding off. And now I'm 35, and I'm just like, I'm so committed. I'm like, I'm lifting. I'm doing all these things. I'm taking supplements. I'm taking protein. I'm doing crazy cardio. I burn like 2,000 calories every time I play pickleball. Like, I'm like just crazy, and I just cannot. Like, it's just so slow. I am seeing the progress, but it's so slow. Anyways, my point here: if you start a new fitness routine, you start lifting weights. Let's just take lifting weights as an example. You're not going to see results after one day. In fact, if you lift every day for a week, you're not going to still probably not going to see any changes in your body. After 2 weeks, you might see a tiny bit of progress, but probably not much after 2 weeks. But after a month, you're going to start to see that there's maybe a few noticeable changes. After 3 to 6 months, you're going to start to notice some big changes in your body. And after a year, you're literally going to be a completely different person. Like, you're not going to look the same. You're going to look completely different after a year,
A year of
right?
consistency.
Yeah, a year of consistency,
Yeah.
right? And now it's really, really hard because when we look at the scale, if we just pay attention to the scale and we don't see that number going down, it's really hard to stay consistent because we're not seeing the movement that we'd hope for, right? Now, in the reality in our fitness journey, like what I'm going through right now, is I'm seeing the progress in other areas. So I do have to start to pay attention to those other areas. But the key is, if I'm consistent for long enough, I'm going to start to see the improvements and the success that I want. And it's easy to really understand that in the fitness world. And so my point here: commit to consistency. If you do your marketing strategies, you release new designs for 30 days, and you don't assess yourself for after day one or after the first week, but you continue to try to um, you continue doing the same thing, but improving it little by little over time. If you do it for 30 days, I guarantee you're going to see some positive movement. That might be in the form of engagement on social media. Your content may be going mini viral. It might be in the form of getting more DMs on social media. It might be in the form of getting your first few sales. It might be in the form of growing your email list. There's many different ways to measure it, right? As we get into that 60-day mark of consistency, we're posting to social media every day. We're sitting to our email list 2 to 3 times a week. We're posting new products consistently every few days or every week. As we get to that 45 to 60-day mark, we're really going to start to see some noticeable success. And so my advice here, like, when should you shut it down? Well, I think you should test a marketing strategy. And we talked about this, I think, on last week's episode. One platform, one niche, one social media, one whatever, one
One
everything,
core product, one
one core
primary
product.
platform, one secondary platform. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
100%.
You should test that strategy for 30 to 60 days. If it doesn't work, try another strategy for 30 to 60 days and take everything in those increments, right? Now, once you've tried a couple strategies, marketing strategies and new designs, and maybe you've gone, you know, 2 to 4 months, somewhere in that range, maybe of like consistency, maybe it's 3 to 6, you might have different time frames. But once you've been consistent for a certain amount of time and you've really put your effort into it, and you try different strategies, I think that's probably the time to move on. I don't think that giving 90 days to a print on demand idea where you're consistent for 90 days in trying to make your first sales and putting out new designs, I don't think that that's too short of a time frame to say, I don't have any sales and I'm not seeing a lot of positive movement, I don't think that's too soon to say I should shut this down and move on. Try something else. I want to hear your thoughts. That's all I got on that.
Oh man, it's a tough one. Like, I agree with a lot of what you said. However, I don't know. It depends on what strategy people are applying. Like, for example, if you're going the totally organic route when you're first on your brand, you're like we know that paid advertising is the quickest way to get a lot of validation very quickly. And in a perfect world, paid advertising wouldn't be paid and we could just put our products in front of a whole bunch of eyeballs and we could test them really quickly and then we can scale up the winners, right? But you got different people with different life situations, right? Some people, they're like, they have more time, so they're going to pay in the form of time. And some people have more money, they're going to pay in the form of money. You're going to pay no matter what, either in the form of time or money. And what I will say is I do think there are definitely circumstances where people can put in a decent amount of work in the first 30 or 60 days and they might not get overnight results. The first one that comes to mind is if you're trying to grow totally organically, like if you're trying to go the total organic route where you're not going to spend a penny on marketing and your goal is just to grow, build up a social media following from scratch to go, to get recommended by the algorithm, to grow really quick, to get your products in front of people and to make sales that way. I mean, you have to build, right? First you have to track, then you have to build, then you have to convert. It's going to be a longer play and it's going to require a lot more time than something like ads. You don't have to do much building at all if you have the budget to run paid ads. So this is one area where I think I would differ. Like if you are purely going on free organic marketing, generally I see it taking longer for people. Yeah. Whereas if you're like, I put some money aside for a marketing budget and I'm committed to testing and following a strategy for testing. You don't have to gamble. Like you don't have to spend a lot of money, but small budgets just to see validation, to look for the outliers, the ones that you can isolate and increase the budget around, then that is typically the fastest way to grow, but it's not the most cost-effective upfront. There's the upfront investment, right? So I think in situations like that, it's going to take those people longer. And if you want to grow really quickly on social media, part of the strategy is consistency. Like if you're going to go all in on that route, you need to be hyper consistent with content creation and know that even being hyper consistent, it can take time, right? You need to experiment. You need to find what works. You need to optimize on that type of content. And you need to commit to the long term, like the build, right? So I think there's some situations where there's like the shortest path, and then there's which usually requires a budget, and then there's the paths that take more time, and those are usually going to take a bit longer to see the results.
That's good stuff. Yeah, and I think it's okay to have different opinions there a little bit. Adrian, I think that's going to wrap up this episode. Appreciate you listening today. Hopefully this was helpful. Just kind of recap the points that we talked about. Number one, closing your e-commerce business does not make you a failure in life. Number two, don't get too emotionally attached to your idea or your business. And then number three, we just talked about some things to look for when you're considering closing your store, when you're really assessing it. Like, have you implemented a proven strategy for winning designs and marketing? We talked about some milestones, some different things to look for if you're going the organic route, if you're going the paid route. Appreciate you listening today. Thank you for listening. We'll see you in next week's episode.
Peace. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Print on Demand Playbook podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us an honest review on whichever platform you're listening from. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you very soon.